In healthcare, few things are more confusing or frustrating than the big, bad HIPAA compliance. Your healthcare organization has a website. Maybe it has a contact form, it has a couple scripts loaded, Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, etc. And you think, oh, nothing crazy is going to happen. No one's coming after me. And you're probably right. But right now, you could be running in violation of the 5-letter acronym known as HIPAA and not even know about it. Maybe you've seen stories of multi-million-dollar lawsuits online. And while that probably won't happen to you, it's best to be safe. So in this video, we're going to talk about everything HIPAA as it applies to your website. We're going to talk about what it actually is, what triggers it, past cases where organizations like you may have gotten burned, and to finish out, we're going to have a simple 5-step playbook that you can implement right now, along with a few helpful tools to keep you in the clear. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Andy. I'm the founder at MMG Studio here in Columbus, Ohio. We are a web and SEO studio only for healthcare. We've launched over 100 websites in this niche, and we have a compliant process that we run through on every single one of our builds. But if you're not a client of ours, I want to take you through everything you need to know to do it on your own. So without further ado, let's make our site compliant. Before we get into it, let's define what HIPAA actually means. HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act 1996. And yes, that is a mouthful. The goal of HIPAA as it originated was simple. If online data can identify a person and say anything about their health at the same time, it must be handled carefully. This combination is called Protective Health Information, or PHI, as you may have heard it referenced. The important thing that most healthcare marketers miss is that health information by itself is not actually PHI. It's the combination of the data and the identification that makes it PHI. For example, depressive symptoms is just a set of words. John Smith is just who's visiting your website. But John Smith has depressive symptoms. The pairing of those two is what's going to breach the PHI violations and put you in that category. I'll throw up a list on the screen of everything that categorizes as PHI, but there is a lot. Things include full name, email addresses, phone numbers, home mailing addresses, date of birth, social security, insurance ID, and things like that. PHI isn't just where healthcare information is stored either. It also applies to URLs that reveal interest in a certain healthcare topic. For example, if your website is structured properly and you worked with an SEO strategist, URLs will reveal the nature of the services of the health practice that the website is about. PHI violations also apply to specific analytics, triggering, and tracking tools that are common on most websites. So if your website uses GA4, Facebook Metapixel, Microsoft Clarity, and some of the mainstream tools that are common on marketing sites, you have to be careful and make sure you pay attention to the rest of this video. Next up, we're going to talk about the 2 types of HIPAA violations that are most popular and what we're going to use this video to help you avoid. The 2 most popular types of HIPAA violations are context violations and intent violations. Context violations are where you are tracking the actual information. For example, if a patient fills out their form and contact information, that is PHI. Usually, that data will flow to a third-party server without a BAA, or a Business Associates Agreement. This is a violation because you captured PHI and transmitted it somewhere where you don't have a right to send it. So if you don't have a BAA, which most marketing teams don't have, with whoever's storing that data on the other end of the form, you're technically in violation. The second type of HIPAA violation is an intent violation. This comes in play when you're tracking user behavior that could indicate health interest. So for example, if someone is visiting a /services/oncology page, this would technically reveal that they have interest in oncology services. And if any pixels or analytics tools are tracking a sensitive page like this on your site, then it would be PHI. A way around this is having a compliant cookie consent setup that the user opts into before they visit this page. This one is really a stretch and is one of the most confusing parts because you, like I, might say, hey, this person opted into visiting this page, and Google Analytics, Microsoft Clarity are traditional tools that are already tracking most of our website behavior. Why is this a violation? Under the HIPAA laws of 1996, currently as we're recording this video in 2026, it still is a violation. The 2 most recent updates from the OCR were in 2022 and 2024, but these only changed the following. It confirmed that intent-based violations are still real and valid, and that URL data reveals health context and health intent, that we're not allowed to track. As you'll see in the case studies of some healthcare institutions that got burned, metapixels and tracking tools are the most common smoking guns of some of these. Let's get into some of those cases to show you some real world scenarios. In 2023, GoodRx had a $25 million HIPAA violation settlement. According to feeroot.com, this $25 million class action payout was for disclosing prescription data. GoodRx is a prescription discount platform. They used Metapixel, Google Analytics 4, and other tracking tools that were active when patients were visiting medication pages that signaled diseases that they may or may not have. Then, to make it even worse, that data was shared with advertisers. So this would be an example of an intent-based violation. Searching out information about a specific drug and then selling that data to advertisers reveals that this user may have a specific condition that they did not want disclosed. Case study number 2 is from a popular online talk therapy company known as BetterHelp back in 2023, and this was a $7.8 million lawsuit. If you're a real G, you know that BetterHelp was one of the sponsors of the Joe Rogan podcast. That's where I first heard about them, so that's why this is particularly interesting to me. But the smoking gun in this incident was the Facebook pixels and Snapchat pixels that were present on all of their ad platforms. Mental health information is one of the most sensitive categories protected by HIPAA, so this was an easy case. According to Feeroot Security, the $7.8 million class action lawsuit was the settlement reached by BetterHelp. And I know you guys may be thinking, hey, we're not an enterprise healthcare company, we're not in patient therapy, we're not in medication, we're still safe. But that's not actually the case. Even mid-market companies between $2 to $10 million in revenue, companies that we have worked with in the past, have had contention around this topic. That's why it's important to make sure that you're checking all the boxes in this video. Stay tuned for the playbook here at the end. Before we get into that playbook, I just want to level on one thing. There is no HIPAA certification. There is no HIPAA badge. I've seen a lot of even healthcare marketing agencies that have a HIPAA certification that they'll either put in the footer of their websites or somewhere as a social proof signal. And if you ever see a HIPAA compliant badge, I'm telling you it is fake. A lot of companies sell certifications for team trainings. That's only for things that are hands-on and it doesn't apply to an online context. What makes HIPAA such a touchy subject and honestly so frustrating is that there is no pass-fail metric. Our job as marketers, our job in healthcare is to make sure that we comply as close as we can to the rules that satisfy the framework according to the law. Our goal with our clients is risk reduction, not a compliance or a badge that we can live up to. My first experience with HIPAA came when we were working with a pharmacy tech company. They had an NABP certification badge that we wanted to list on our website. It comes with a mandatory HIPAA check. And the first time we ever came across this, we were in violation of several of these. Now, it didn't end up leading to a lawsuit, but one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video is so this doesn't happen to anyone else, much less an in-house marketer if you're responsible for the website at your company. I don't want this to fall on you. Okay, so the last part of this video is the playbook. I'm going to include a link to an online version that you can go to the description and download now if you want full version, but let's get into the quick and dirty version. There's 5 parts of this. Part number 1, map your data flows. Before you head into your CRM or audit a single pixel on your website, ask yourself the questions below. Number 1, does your website collect names combined with any protected health information or intent that could reveal those? Number 2, does your website have a patient portal, an appointment scheduler, or any type of intake form? Number 3, what third-party tools are actually active on your website? And what specific pages may be in violation of PHI? And number 4, what do your URL structures reveal about the intent behind the visitors that go to those pages? Answer all these questions and put them into a Google Doc. So every tool that we use to track information is logged not only in our privacy policy, which we'll get into here in a minute, but logged off platform, which leads me to step number 2 is to audit your script inventory. Every third-party script on your site is a potential liability, and you need to make sure that you have a complete list. So what I want you to do is to open your source code or your tag manager, write down every single script that fires. You can use Google Search Console and Google Lighthouse to do this. Keep a list of each one that comes up and keep it in one place. Popular scripts that are probably on your website that technically are in violation of PHI and you're going to want to keep note of for later are Metapixel, Google Analytics, Hotjar, Intercom, LinkedIn Insights tags, and TikTok pixels. These are the most common culprits. These are the ones that we install on a lot of client sites, and you want to make sure that you have record of what pages these fire on. This would be a good time to mention too, there are enterprise companies that take care of this for you. FreshPaint is a tool that acts as a proxy layer, and it actually strips PHI before it ever gets to Google Analytics. Other companies that do server-side tracking, which is what this called, include FullStory, Heap, Hours Privacy, and other enterprise companies that will charge you a lot of money to do this and take it off your hand. While I will leave links to these companies in the descriptions, just know that if you're not an enterprise company that doesn't have 5 figures to invest into a company to handle this for you, just implement this playbook and you'll be just as good to go. Step number 3 is to lock down your form. Standard contact forms are the most common failure points when it comes to HIPAA. And there's a super simple solution that solves 99% of it. This is what we call the sandbox method. So if you have a data entry point like a form, it's best to just use a CRM or a form tool that is HIPAA compliant by nature. Now, these may be slightly more expensive tools, but it's still going to be cheaper than the enterprise options that do server-side tracking. Some popular HIPAA compliant tools that we use with healthcare clients include HubSpot, Zoho, and anything that publicizes that they have HIPAA compliant data collection tools. There are other form tools that aren't technically HIPAA compliant, but they are open to signing a BAA with your company if you go through that process. I'll link to another blog about that in the description if you want to learn about how to approach a company to sign a BAA with you. Which leads us to step number 4 of this playbook, is to get your BAAs in order. A BAA, or a business associate agreement, is a legal contract between a covered entity and any vendor that handles PHI on their behalf. If you don't have a BAA with a company that's exposed to the public health information, or PHI, then that covered entity is by definition exposed. Our BAA checklist is a hosting provider such as AWS, Google Cloud, Cloudflare, or Hostinger, GoDaddy, some of the more popular options, your form handling tool, your CRM, your email marketing tool, your analytics platform, your chat tools, and any other integration that receives data from the website. Do your best to get signed BAAs from each of the companies before launch, or work with an agency that opens this conversation. And step number 5, rounding out the playbook, is to publish and keep up to date on your privacy frameworks. When it comes to privacy policies, there's 2 things that I want you to know. Number 1 is you need to have a notice of privacy practices. If your client is protected by a covered entity, this is actually mandated by law. One time with one of our clients, we got burned for the cookie consent banner, which is where we would include the notice of privacy practices as well. It is because the cookie consent form technically wasn't noticeable enough, but it needs to be prominent enough so that the visitor doesn't have plausible deniability for not seeing it. The HHS website provides a great template for this, and I'll link that in the description. No email, no download required. That's what I would use as a starting point. Now, for your privacy policy, this needs to be kept up to date to cover your website specifically. It should include all the tracking technologies that are in place, what data is being collected, how it is stored, and what rights users have. Termageddon, shout out to Hans, is the founder over at Termageddon, is a great tool that is compliant, and it will generate auto-updating privacy policies on your behalf based on everything that's on your website. Highly recommend Termageddon if you're not working with an agency. These guys are top notch. Okay, so that rounds out the playbook. Just one more thing I want to leave you guys with. HIPAA is admittedly very complex. If there was a certification, if there was a checkbox list, if there was a pass-fail metric, all of our lives would be a lot easier. And I'll say too, the organizations that got fined, they weren't careless, that they didn't pay attention to some of these best practices. The best thing we can do is create awareness around these guidelines and continuously track forwards and being more compliant towards them. Try and view HIPAA compliance as value that you're passing on to your patients, to your clients. Keep them in mind when you're going through all these steps, because they are the ones that are most important. Again, thank you guys for watching. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you check out that link in the description for the downloadable checklist. That's going to help you out with all this stuff and make it a lot easier. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next video.